And we're live. Welcome to Gordox Pub. We're making stuff out AI. It's all original, old school. Suck it. Oh boy. What? That wasn't the best entrance ever? That was like the best entrance ever.
I don't even know what the entrance was.
Ugh.
I'm on TikTok. Not TikTok and, having issues.
So, anyway.
Right now I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to start. I'm going to start the background, but
Okay.
haven't decided what color I want to make the background yet. Looks a little bit difficult. Go on. I know you're dying to bring this subject up.
What?
Writing?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because, you get work done on the artwork, and I would like to get some work done on the writing, as well as my own writing. I just stubbed my toe. God, jeez. Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting down and I stubbed my toe. That's the amazing part. Anyway.
That could be worse. You could be walking full stride.
Sure. But
I would think that'd be worse.
I've been very nervous about sharing any kind of script stuff just because I wasn't sure about the format. As you get more used to things and, doing that contest or that talent search, whatever you want to call it, kind of helped, I think. Give me past where I was worried about showing stuff up on screen. So I'm going to intermittently be sharing I'll be writing while Rich is drawing. I'm going to keep my screen smaller. It's going to be kind of hard to see, I suppose. But we said we were going to do this stuff online, and then the writing part's always been hidden. So,
well, yeah, because so if you just put the writing part out there, only people could just steal it and run with it.
oh yeah, I get it, but technically there's copyright attached and all that kind of stuff.
Well, but yeah, we're not really copyrighted.
So, I did have a couple thoughts that I'd run by you. So you know how you sit a graphic novel's around 60 pages or so, roughly, but a comic book is normally around 22 pages.
Yeah, 22 to 24, I think. But a graphic novel can be 100 pages. It's just
right.
It's not easy to pack and ship at 100 pages.
Right. So we're looking at something roughly around the 60-page mark. That's kind of what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, at the very least.
Okay. So,
at the very least, to be 50, 60, right?
So I want I need to have
I'm
going to frame this or try to construct this so that around every 20 to 22 pages is a major turning point.
Okay.
Well, that way, if you wanted to split it up into 3 comics, we could.
What? Oh.
You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out how to construct it so that...
I think it would be easier to fund if it's one.
Oh, I agree, but...
Whatever.
I agree. I'm just saying I'd like to have the option if... You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if it's constructed with that in mind, it's easier to do later. Even if we never do it, I just want to keep the option available if I can. That's an artificial restraint on the writing, but I think it might be a good idea to try that. So, again, it's a goal. It's not a rule either. So, That's going to kind of also it helps me pace, I guess.
Yeah, whatever, man. I mean, like, if you want to try to plan it for 20-page intervals, that's fine. And 20-page intervals will mean, like, maybe every 20 pages I can do a splash page where I'm not really so worried about how many boxes, you know, how many panels.
Right, we need. Yeah. So where we're going after this, after what we've seen so far on screen, or on YouTube and on Twitch, I think we are roughly. Well, I have the script up on my screen. I know exactly where we should be. So pages 6 and 7, we're starting to get into the investigation. There's a little bit of some movement. We're going deeper into the bowels of the city. And so I have this idea for a character. It's kind of a jumble, but basically kind of an elitist techno bureaucrat guy who's in charge of the water supply / sewer system, because somewhere along something is getting into the city, and that guy would technically be like, that's an access point, so he'll kind of be in charge, and then there's going to be some more exploring detective type things. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to be going. And then in some of that detective exploring type thing, there should be a conflict, which I have going, which I'm telling you about so that if you have ideas, or if I get stuck or whatever, you can be like, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Well, fight scene's not a big deal, unless there's specific results that you want out of that fight scene.
Mastiff has to win.
What's that?
Mastiff wins. That's the result.
Okay, well, because heroes don't always win, right?
That's true, and it may come about that it's a strategic retreat or something, but if I haven't planned it 100% out. Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Can't not. Yeah, absolutely can't not. I mean, the character could, but that would be the wrong move for the writer.
Yeah, it'd be the wrong move for the creators and artists and viewing public.
Yeah, it's a really short war.
He's got a short career.
Yeah. We're really going to try to pass the torch off a character nobody's heard of.
Okay, so are we going to pass the torch?
No. Creative thing
right now. I mean, like, is this planned to be a one-time story, or we're going to create more with this character?
I think it'll be open. It should be a standalone story that can be built out further. I like the idea of the graphic novel being complete by itself.
Me too.
And then, you can have another adventure in another graphic novel.
Yep. That's the way I like to write. I much prefer writing serial than writing trilogy.
Ooh, that's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah. Yes.
Well, at the end of last stream when I was talking about historical fiction.
Yeah.
Most historical fiction, I find, is not written in trilogies. It's written like separate adventures. There might be an overarching tale.
Yeah.
For instance, Cornwell's Utrecht books. There is a main plot line. He's trying to get his family lands back because they were stolen. But in each book, it's a separate plot. That's not the entire plot. That's not the entirety of what's going on, right? So, I guess what I'm saying is that it's not uncommon when I read a lot of historical fiction to approach it from a way where each story is a separate entity. It's finished, but it's all still going on in the same realm because history is like that, right? There's a lot of the misadventures and happenings in history, but it doesn't change the progression of the history. I'll probably just knock the camera all crazy, but
nope.
So I'm using Golden Fluids, not Golden Opens this time. Golden Fluids actually are regular acrylics that dry, much faster. So I keep hitting it with water. Plus, I'm filling it with water, but I also keep hitting it with water because of that. As it's thin with water, if I cover over, parts of his nails or parts of whatever, that's fine. Because it's a thin coating and I can put things over it. That's the thing I love about painting that I've told people before. Some people probably haven't heard that because they haven't followed yet, but if you don't like something that you painted, you just paint over it.
So, thank you, Gerson Hobb on Twitch, for offering cheap viewers. We'll stick with authentic viewers and appreciate each and every one of them. All right, which reminds me, if you haven't liked, subscribed, followed, dedicated your firstborn, whatever to us, every little bit helps. So, thanks.
Just don't pass one through the fire.
Yeah. Hit the bell, like, subscribe, comment. It's always appreciated. Also, I was just taking my pills for the evening, my back pain and all that stuff. It's been wonderful. And apparently the pop I thought I was drinking was flat. Oh, that was delicious. So you just saw me take a drink and then take another drink. I have no idea how long that can of pop has been sitting there.
So
I spit it out because I had my pills in my mouth. Oh.
This is Arcus hot press paper. It's expensive paper.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling those who didn't
watch last time, I know.
But because of the nature of what I'm doing, it's kind of a passive-aggressive thing. Somebody had asked for a very quick logo, and I designed one for them, and they said they were going to buy it, but they never did. So what they did do is make a cheaper version of it with another artist. So all my putting stuff aside to help them was rewarded with basically stealing my idea. But I had...
Gotta love it.
Huh?
Said you gotta love it. They screw
Right.
you over, at least you know not to trust them.
Creative Bay. Hi, Creative Bay.
I already said that.
I didn't hear you.
You're not allowed to say, you're not allowed to talk to you.
And I didn't say hello. So I'm saying hello. Anyway.
Alright.
So I was going to design this album cover. What I'm doing is withholding the name of the band because I'm not that, I don't know, I just think that would be wrong. But
Okay.
well, yeah, like it's one thing to go, I'm gonna paint what I would have painted for a cover and then give it away just because. That's one thing, because there's no claim on this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But withholding their name, as I think, is just the right thing to do, because not everybody probably was in on that decision. But it was a disappointing thing because the reason that I did that, stopped everything and went into doing this logo and doing this work, was because I was doing it for a friend, and the friend is the one that didn't tell me anything about them doing a different version of the same thing. You should have, I thought I could expect some loyalty, especially when I was going out of my way for them, but maybe that's not necessarily true. I'm going to drop this down a little bit. So the color I'm using is green gold. I really like this color. Most of it's been watered down. This is not pure. I might do a little bit of more pure as it dries on the top. I've got a fan kind of going on it because I want to have that darker, grungier, horror-ish, I don't know, moldy green. It's kind of moldy green is a horror color, right?
I guess.
Kind of looks horror-ish. I guess I gotta take. I can't take the banner off either because all the information is up there. Let me see if I can raise the camera up a little bit, maybe.
There you go.
There you go.
Here. Where we get you this?
Oh,
No, that's the right one. Sorry. All right. This. There we go. You know, the technical prowess of our production team is just stunning. I'd like to thank all of them for their countless hours of labor. For the record, just because I'm weird, I really don't want to have it continued, so I'm changing my text just so I don't have it. Like, I don't want to have the page lead over for one freaking line.
What?
I'm working on the script. And
yeah, I just didn't hear what you were saying.
Right, so I'm working on my script.
For one freaking line, that's what I heard of it.
Yeah, well, I have one line that won't fit on the page. So I figure there's got to be some place in here I can find one line that I can cut. Yeah, this is the place. I knew I had a place I could cut. Oh, hello, cat. Here, let's go back to my screen and I will show off one of my cats. That's Wicket. He's the chunkus. Oh, girl. You normally aren't that loving. You want love stuff? Okay. No, I'm stuck petting the cat. It's not my fault. It's not procrastination. It's simply the laws of life. Oh. Cat is a strange creature. Hey, Aaron. I'm terrified this cat's going to do something stupid, which results in some kind of bodily damage, I'm sure. Probably a scratch, bleeding as she falls, because she's a chunkus that has no balance. And that's normally how they get you.
You have a cat that has no balance?
I swear.
That like Schrodinger's cat?
Oh, it's just... This cat knocks over stuff all the time. Just all the time. And it's... Or she'll like be trying to walk on the headboard and fall, and then she's trying to catch herself, and you have, cat claws over your head in the middle of the night, and you're wondering why you're being attacked, and it's just not pleasant. So normally she's locked out of the room. But apparently today, she decided she wants to be.
She found the way into the room.
Yeah.
She didn't really want to be there. She just had to be there because she was locked out.
Well, earlier, we got in and she climbed up on this ladder thing. And she was fine. And then she jumped down to this hamper that had a pair of my wife's jeans on it and decided to hork all over it. Ooh. Oh, thanks, Cat. She's scratching her ear and then scratching me when she does it. Kind of weird feeling. That was weird, Cat. Thank you. And normally this cat is not that loving. She normally just finds some place and, disappears for a while. So, one of the things I read while looking up, because here's something fun for all those people who think about writing comic books. There is no real standard format. So, there's, I'm sure, house preferences.
Yep.
Like I'm sure Marvel has a format. DC's, I'm sure, got a format. At least I would think so.
And that depends, too, on if you have a name, because if you develop a name, then you can write however you want to.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain if Stephen King wants to write a comic book, he can use whatever format he wants.
Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, they write whatever the fuck they want to.
Right. But for, guys like us, we need to make sure clarity is the most important part. Make sure that the artist can figure out what's going on. Later on, your inker and stuff, it's a wildly different process than just regular story writing. Part of it's kind of nice because
you have to be able.
I don't really care. I don't have to say what it looks like. I just Rich will figure it out. So,
Well, that
I
means
shall
we
give
took
general
pretty
clue.
well, so.
Yeah.
It's not like
So,
I can't say, hey, Brett, what the fuck did you mean by this? Like I have
Yeah, pretty
before,
much.
you know?
That's how that works. It's a lot easier when you're working directly with the artist.
Yeah, or when you know each other for a while.
Well, yeah. And it hasn't always been easy, but hey, we're doing it. So.
No, I'm not the easiest to work with. As we were discussing, I'm an old man, so.
Oh, so am I.
As I discovered going into the David Finch fan server today. You're old. How old are you? I'm so old that scientists test my poop.
So, we're getting more into Mastiff, the character. So, before I've already kind of tweaked a few things. But we kind of have to get some of this situated. I think we may have discussed this before, but I'm not sure, so I'm going to just clarify. Mastiff is going to be more the stoic, strong type, right? Not the Deadpool, Spider-Man, quip type, right?
Oh, he's not going to be a girly type either.
No, I said stoic, strong.
Right, that's what I said. Yeah, because he's not going to be a girly type either.
Right. So, all right. Well, I'm trying to
the
think.
girly types.
I'm just some of the dialogue doesn't necessarily matter for you yet, but it's eventually going to matter for us. And so, yeah, I don't think he's going. I'm going to try to limit how much he actually talks.
I like that idea.
Now, I haven't done a lot of it because some of it I got to get the story out, and I think I'm okay because one of the things I learned by reading into the formats was that it was like a recommendation that you know how I number all of my parts that get inked, basically, like all the dialogue and stuff I number. That's because one of the tips was like if you get over 20 of these, you're not letting your art speak. So try to keep it under 20 per page. And
Wow.
I was like, okay.
You know how I feel about that.
How do you? What do you mean?
Oh, we're talking about Eisner. And
Oh yeah.
usually it's one exchange per panel.
Yeah, but that's
So if it's 3 panels, I don't want 20 pieces of dialogue.
well, but
Separate
then
pieces of dialogue.
you had suggested before sometimes where you just split it because even though it's the same person talking, like they might be talking to someone slightly different, so you split it into 2 parts.
Okay,
Yeah.
but technically that's not a different piece of dialogue.
Okay. But still, I'm trying for less than, like right now, the most I have is 11 of those. There's 7 on that page, 11 on that page.
11 pieces of dialogue on the page?
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's, well, you can look at it. You should, well, put it up on screen.
Well, I can't look at it right now.
No. Okay. I'm just telling you, there's, from what I saw from most other, like that was perfectly fine. Especially if I have 3 character stuff.
Well, I don't think we've ever discussed that, but I don't think, like, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything really. I'm gonna say anyway. Just it, you don't want to overdo the artwork, but I'm trying to leave plenty of room for you to put dialogue and stuff. Matter of fact, in the first few pages, there's much more art than dialogue, so I tried to leave a lot more space in case you came up with some more dialogue. But, oh, that's what I was going to say. Are you also considering caption boxes?
Yes. All the things that an inker would be involved in. So
that's
caption.
Not an inker, that's a letterer.
Okay, letterer. That's it. You're right.
Well,
so everything that the letterer would want.
There's a difference.
Oh yeah, I get it. You're completely right.
I'm just pointing it out, and like I said, not just toward you, like anyone that's uninformed that's learning this as well as we are, right?
Right.
That's why we're doing it. That's why we're doing it on here, right?
I am. I just pulled up one of those scripts by Chuck Dixon, and yeah, there's like 14 on one page, and again, that counts captions.
Right. Well, yeah.
So I'm not.
But it depends on the page with Chuck Dixon, right? Some of them are full, and some of them are not as full.
Well, yeah, and same with if you really look at mine. I mean, there's hardly anything on the splash page, and page 6 only has 7 pieces of dialogue. Like, there's one whole panel that I didn't want any dialogue at all on page 6. And that one we may have to talk about because
the last pages, I left room in case you did want to add dialogue after all is said and done.
The page 6 talks about an interior shot of Mastiff's mask. So, does he still have that mask, or is that face his face?
Oh, that's a mask, but like, I don't know how realistic it would be to see the inside of it.
Well, that's not really what I meant. So, it's the interface that you see. So
you're talking about seeing his face?
No, I'm saying that you're seeing what he's seeing inside the mask, from the mask perspective.
So yeah, you're looking. It's his point of view. It's the point of view.
Yeah.
Shot.
Yeah, just put that in. I wasn't sure because you made the face more natural on the splash page than what you had done on the initial drawing. And I was like, okay, I don't know if that's a mask anymore.
Yeah, it's actually if you look at the splash, I can't show it right now, but
that's fine.
If you look at the close up of his face, there's kind of panels on his face now that weren't there before.
Okay.
I mean, he's got teeth, upper and lower teeth, that are part of the mask, but they're part of the mask. I mean, there's gaps between them where it's not showing any interior of the face or whatever, it's just gaps.
Okay, I'm going to go see if this cat wants out of the room because her litter box was out. I can't believe she's sitting here this long. Like, she curled out onto my knee like she's wanting to leave. Oh, now she's back on the armrest. Because I'm in control, not the cat, okay? I don't do what the cat wants. I do what I want. And it obeys. Said no cat owner ever. Okay. All right, cat. Let's see. I'll be right back.
Well, my cat doesn't obey, but I don't do what it says.
Oh.
I tell it to fuck you a lot. Especially when it starts driving me crazy with the repeated meowing. The cat's gotten so fat that he can't squeeze through areas that he was squeezing through a week ago. So when he sits there and meows because he's gotten too fat to move, I'm telling him, fuck you.
Alrighty. I was right. Of course, as soon as I open the door, the cat just stops. Like, instead of just going to the door, she went around, popped up onto the dresser, just trying to knock stuff over, I think. And then, edge of the dresser is the edge of the room. I open the door, she looks out, looks at me, looks out again. I can tell she wants out, but she won't move. So she waited for me to pick her up and gently place her on the floor. And then she was like, oh yeah, that's about right.
Right.
Because I said she was leaving, gosh darn it. So she did. All right. Yeah, I don't know how well you can see. Oh, I'm sure. I doubt. A lot of people can see much of the screen at all, but let's get back. Oh, I'm trying to share my screen, my writing screen, large enough so that you might possibly be able to read it.
Well, honestly, the only thing you could do is split screen, or you be the larger.
Let's see. There we go. Look at that. We can see everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Because people are.
I'm a techno wizard. Well, hey, I will switch in just a moment. I'm just.
No, nobody cares.
Thanks. So, this is kind of the format that I've kind of got set up for most of my script now. Nice big giant page numbers so we know what page we're on, and then once I figure out how many panels I want, I'll have that little spot for the panels. So, that's a question mark. And then your panels normally start, and I'm trying to highlight and make things bold and underline just so things look different, so it's easier for Rich or anyone else to see who has to work with the script. It's just about making sure it's easy to understand, and then so it's usable, I guess. As someone who has graded papers for a living, I appreciate it when things are easy to read and I can quickly find the stuff I want to, find. So I'm trying to do that for my collaborators. So that's kind of where format works. Easy enough, I think. template, I suppose. I mean, I just kind of copy and paste, and then every page be its own page. If I have to run over, I can. There's a technique for that, but I haven't had to yet. I try not to. But as soon as I dump the page, I put a page break in it. I don't manually adjust it anymore. If you manually adjust it and then share it, it's going to be different on someone else's screen. So page breaks, inserting them by going up to insert and then page break, I think is probably the best way to do it. And even that's not perfect, but we try. Now back to rich stuff. The things people really want to see.
Nah, nobody wants to watch.
I also just like people to know what I'm working on, so that because when I'm working on it, I'm looking here. It's actually kind of neat, Rich. I mean, when you paint, like, I always like it that it. You know, I appreciate the stages that it goes through. So on one hand, you're like, "Oh God, what the hell is Rich doing?" And then a few minutes later, you're like, "Oh, that's what he's doing." I still find that interesting. You ever had like your mouse just not want to? I keep trying to highlight stuff, and it's like it's not maintaining the contact, so it'll move text, it'll start and stop highlighting. It's just
Do you have a trackball?
No, it's laser.
Well, I have a trackball that's laser, but the reason I ask if you have a trackball, like a thumb ball, then it'll gather lint and shit, and you have to clean it out every once in a while.
Yeah. Did you see in the news where Disney was claiming that, as I understand it, this couple went to a Disneyland resort?
Yeah, you're talking about the waiver.
Yeah, like that is insane that they would try to claim that you signed up for our TV service so we can hire people to kill you and you can't sue us. It's like, what? You don't get coverage for your food service because of a Disney Plus arrangement.
See, the trick is that if you have Disney Plus, did you read the agreement in detail before you signed it?
It doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, that is the legal standing they're going to argue on, and in California, they're corrupt as fuck anyway. That's why if you sell your IP to Hollywood, almost all of them will have you sign a contract that says if you sue them, you have to be in California, because in California they can pull some duplicitous bullshit where they claim that they didn't make any money off of it because they ended up having to sell it during the production, but they sell it to a production company that they already own. So it's the same owner, just under a different production company head, and they'll win it every time in California, even though anywhere else but California it's fraud. So if Disney's contract says you have to sue them in California, they know what they're doing.
I don't think I would. Because literally that would mean that would be like saying, okay, you signed up for this Disney subscription, and you bought a Disney toy, and it was defective. But because you watched our TV show, you can't sue. Like, it's insane. Like, you cannot sign away your rights like that. Like, it's just, it'll be,
we'll see.
It's insane.
I don't think it's right.
I can understand if you wanted to sue about your Disney TV subscription, because that's the product you got.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it is right, but it might factually they might win because of their agreement.
They could,
and how the agreement's worded.
I got sued once for. This is what happened. I had some apartments, and the tenant ran their car into the wall. So, all right, so I call my insurance company, and they're like, okay, and they send it out. This guy, and it was shady as hell. Eventually, we figured out because they suggested, okay, this company to erect a wall, like a temporary wall, because you have to secure the premise. Because if you don't, all the other damage they'll just say is because you didn't secure the premise, and they'll deny your claim. So I'm like, yeah, build a temporary wall, please. I agreed to that 100%. And so then I have a handyman that I normally work with. Like, I'm contacting him and doing all this stuff, and then my wife gets this phone call. They're like, they said they were going to send out a guy you have to submit a bid. Like, I have to go out and collect some bids. And they're like, so this company that put your temporary wall up, they'll do one bid, and then you can go out. You don't have to use them. You just have, you got to have some bids. So you use this guy for a bid, and then find some more. All right, whatever. And then my wife gets a phone call, and they're like, do you care about if we put siding up over part or something like that? And she's like, it's a bid, I don't care. And so they're like, all right. And then we drove over, and they had done it. They had done the whole job. I never agreed to it. I never asked for it. Never signed any papers. Was never told the price. Nothing. 100%. They just decided to put this wall in. They charged me for a window that was never put in. They charged me for cleanup that they never did. They charged me for all kinds of stuff that never, ever happened. And then I was like, well, I'm not paying you. And there's no contract because we never had one because we never discussed this. And they're like, all right, whatever. So they sued me. And my lawyer's like, in Indiana, you have to have a signed contract. So this should be quick. Well, when it wasn't quick, I knew I was screwed. So, lost the lawsuit. I appealed it. That was a couple of years ago. I haven't heard anything back since. So I'm assuming I won. Because no one's coming at me for money. But, you can. I understand. You can go to court. You can have the best case in the world, and you can get screwed over. I think we've seen that on every level of our government. Once it goes to the courts, you can't trust that you're going to get anyone with any sense. So you're right. Disney absolutely could win this.
Well, like I said,
in which case they should be boycotted out of existence.
If they're stipulated that you have to sue them in California, there's a whole bunch of funky rules in California that you wouldn't even think of because that's exactly what they're doing. It's fraudulent bullshit. But as far as being like contracted, because I was a tattoo artist for so long, we couldn't contract anyone for more than 3 years. We couldn't, because we had like anti-competition clauses, Because obviously, you train
Yeah.
somebody, it's not fair for them to go out and then just start fucking tattooing as competition, undercutting their prices and shit. But the anti-competition clauses couldn't last longer than 3 years because you can't stop somebody from making a living or whatever. So you
They're
can't
almost
contract
all
them.
unconstitutional now.
You can't contract them for more than 3 years. So I wonder if that's going to be applicable with this.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
we were talking about it, and I know California's got shoddy laws.
Oh, I know.
David Farland was talking about it. So you know who the Cheetah Girls is, right?
Yeah, I do. I think.
Yeah, Cheetah Girls. The author for the Cheetah Girls signed a contract, and the agreement was to get a certain percentage off the back end instead of giving her pay up front. And that's what they did to her. They claimed it as a loss, and they had to sell it to a different production company. And she didn't get shit for her intellectual property. And they have the rights to do sequels and shit because they bought those rights, even though they didn't pay her shit for them. So David Farland was talking about always take your money up front, because anyone that comes to talk to you about buying your intellectual property rights for a movie or for an actor,
Right.
like say Tom Cruise or whatever, or production company, they are allotted 3%. So if it's, $30 million budget, that's $3 million, right?
Yeah. That's 10%.
And if the person that comes and confronts you to ask you to sell it, if they can get you to sell it for less, they keep the extra money.
Oh.
So a
Well,
lot
I
of
mean,
people don't realize that they're allotted so much to pay for it, and they just expect that's what they're going to give, and that's, if you want to make money, you make money. Well, it's 3%, so you fucker. I hate that.
what'd you do?
Well, the brown that I put on there was a little thin. So, look at that. Fucking smearing all over the place. Yeah, that shouldn't really have happened like that. But as I said before, if you don't like it, you go over it. And what I can do from here is, after I paint over it with this darker, then I can paint over it with a yellow and get it closer to where it was.
Even hinges are on the left, right? Correct? Even pages
Yeah.
are on the left. Correct. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I not know. And for anyone
Yes,
who's
but
watching,
the
as
thing that you
why
want
I
to
would,
keep in mind is anytime you want to double page thread,
yeah,
you want to start it on the
page,
left.
yeah, it starts on the even.
Yes, starts on the even number.
That's the other thing, like with the script writing, that I think is kind of weird, is that it's just all suggest. Like, if you wanted to draw something cool for a page, I don't know why I would be like, no, that doesn't fit my script. Like, it just, I don't know, it's weird. I've always thought, I mean, it's collaborating. It's the weird part. That's all.
Right.
But it's like, I'm not the art person, so why the heck am I telling the person doing the art what it's supposed to look like? It's kind of weird. Now, so the nice thing is, you know me, and I'm just like, generally speaking, like, you know, I might tell you to try something. But I know most of the time I'm just like, no, I trust you, because, dude. So at my new school, we're supposed to, I guess, have a club every Wednesday, and it can be whatever you want it to be. And I was like, okay, that's weird, but all right. And there's like a list of clubs that the school does, or that other people have already said they would have. And there were already creative writing clubs, so I was like, well, I'm not going to do that then. And I thought about doing a comic book script writing club, or just a comic book club, to be honest. But then I had this idea for a silent rave, where you come in and you listen to music on your earpods, so that it's silent in the room, but you're just jamming out. And I'm like, yes, that is the best idea for a club ever, where people are quiet and self-contained and can just relax. So I'm hoping they'll let me do it. I don't know if they will or not, but if they won't, I'm going to go back to script writing club. So my wife bought this new sleep mask, and it arrived today. She's like, here, try this out. And I'll put something in the private chat here in just a minute. But I tried it on, and I guess in the middle of my living room, the windows, like the curtains are wide open, super bright. I put that thing on, and it was pitch black. I mean, I couldn't see around it. I couldn't see anything. I was like, whoa. Like, it was enough that I was like, yeah, take this off. That's just too dark. It was weird.
Yeah, deprivation chamber.
Oh, yeah, I don't do that. But anyway, I'll put a little message for you in private. Anyway, but I was kind of chuckled at the lengths my wife would go to block out light. he wants the room like jet black every night. And I'm just like, like I understand you don't want lights on, but there might be a light from your phone or the modem light. It's real faint, and it's not like not you can really see very well. But that's too much for her. So she got her mask. See how long that works. But from my experience, I shouldn't have to worry about turning off the lights when I'm streaming. She's got noise canceling earbuds. She's got that black mask. Pretty sure the whole house could be on fire. She'd never know. So.
And my wife's got blinders too. And I keep the lights dim because I read at night because I can't get to sleep. I have to take melatonin, and then after that I have to read until that melatonin kicks in.
I was so I followed Larry Correia. That's how you say his name. Followed him on Facebook.
Korea, like the country.
Korea, okay. Korea. All right. And I've read some of his stuff before. I've liked it, and I generally like his take on stuff. I have no problem. I think sometimes he's a little bombastic, but nothing wrong with that.
He's actually had campaigns to cancel him, so he's got a right to be bombastic.
Well, I mean, I followed him, so it's not like I have a problem with him.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm saying for other people out there that don't know,
right,
that he's had campaigns to cancel him because he's not left wing.
Right, definitely.
He's not Republican. He's libertarian. But he's more of a true libertarian, really. But he's more of a gun nut than.
That's gotta drive him nuts. But
what's that?
So that will drive them nuts. But anyway,
oh yeah. So, well, he gets people like Laurel K. Hamilton and Jim Butcher and people like that out shooting with him too. So
right, so as it should be. But he had posted something that we had just kind of discussed about reading versus listening. And I still can't get into this idea that it's the same experience. I just can't say it's the same thing. I really can't. I understand both are valid.
What?
Well, I get some people. Larry was complaining about some guy, I think, because he didn't quite say it out loud and didn't really show what was being talked about. And it sounded like some guy was acting like listening to audiobooks is somehow inferior to reading the book. And and then Larry was going through and had this tirade about, he said they're the same thing. And I can't wrap my head around that idea.
Yeah, I agree with him.
I understand. I think they're equally valid, but here's where it starts. I prefer one over the other. If they were the same,
okay.
I should have a problem. Well, I'm just saying, if I have a preference, that shows that there's a difference. So they're not the same.
Like we've discussed this before. He's talking about storytelling, and you're probably not.
Well, I am, and I brought up something that Kevin J. Anderson wrote in his book on being a dictator with Martin Shoemaker. He kind of broke it down. He broke down the process of dictating basically to the idea of it's one less filter between your brain to the page. Because when you're dictating, you're not having to also translate it into letters. You're just telling a story. So it's a more natural process supposedly, with fewer filters.
Yeah, it's that whole cavemen were telling stories before they were writing stories.
Right. Again, and I'm not talking about a hierarchical structure where one is more valid than the other. I'm simply saying they are not the same experience. So, if the production can be affected by filters, then the reception would also be affected by filters. And it's kind of like if I go see Romeo and Juliet, it's different. It's a whole different experience than reading Romeo and Juliet. And listening to it, a play of Romeo and Juliet, would be different than watching it or reading it. And you're getting the story in all three cases. All three are perfectly valid, and if you enjoy one over the other, then eat it up as much as you want. I have no problem with that. But from just the artistic viewpoint, I have a hard time saying they're the same. I think there are different skill sets that are going into both, and different decoding skills that are needed for both. So, I think audiobooks are great for people who enjoy them. I think my problem with audiobooks probably stems from impatience. I can read faster than they probably should read it out loud. Like when you read it out loud, you have to, intone and have.
Some readers are very bland, and some readers are basically actors. I enjoy the readers that are basically actors, and I think it's a more fulfilling story that way. But it's all subjective, really, to me.
Well, see, and I would say that that's perfectly fine that you find it more fulfilling. It's perfectly cool that you enjoy it more. It's perfectly valid, 100%. Go for it. I would never say audiobooks are trash, because no, I find them to be a medium that you can do some neat stuff with. But if I have a choice between reading a book or having it read to me, I know I'm going to go for reading the book myself. But that's 100% subjective. You're 100% correct on that.
Yep.
And Larry's right to say that
they're
both storytelling, but I have a hard time saying they're the same thing. I just think they're similar but different, and both
right
valid.
Now I'm listening to one, reading 3, and I've got one on deck. So I like it all. And I'm probably a rare bird that way, but I love it all.
Oh no, I think I would, like, if I was on a long trip and I was driving and I was by myself, I could definitely see an audiobook being a great way to go. I really could. Like, there are times when it would be fine. It'd be perfectly fine. But I honestly, I don't look down upon anyone that enjoys audiobooks. Just it would be like looking down on people who enjoy some kind of food I don't like. It's like, all right, cool, but I can't get the idea that it's the same thing.
Exactly. I've got a few friends that don't like audiobooks. Besides you, there's another one or two. To me, It depends on the story. Some stories I much prefer in audiobook. I don't like the writer's voice as much as the narrator's voice. I don't get the same imagery. I don't get the same feel for the dialogue as the narrator. So it's a different story for me in a little bit. But you know how it is with writers. Like Larry, though, you're talking about the audiobook thing. This is a while ago. I don't know if you caught it, but he advocates writing for Audible, and he doesn't like it doesn't jump out and go just write for Audible. That's not what I'm talking about. What he means when he means, huh?
He wants it to sound good.
Well,
right?
what he's talking about is that there's a lot of he said that can be eliminated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it's just tags and identifying. I don't know. I guess it's the way that you tag them, really, essentially. But I think it's kind of valid that instead of saying he said all the time, you can skip and say whatever the person's name is, what they're doing in between speaking. I mean, it's just as valid of a tag.
Right, I do that quite a bit.
But he learned that from Audible. What I'm getting at is that he didn't originally, he was writing all those he said just for clarification.
Right.
But from Audible, he learned that it doesn't sound as good as it looks. You know what I mean? And that is, maybe supports what you're saying, or maybe just throws out there why it's valid. To set your story for something like Audible.
I would say that, well, you could write something specifically for an audio format that, if done correctly, you wouldn't need tags much at all, ever. Because you can rely on the performance to help differentiate speech and who's saying what, right? Whereas on a page, it's not that easy. And that's what the tags really are for, I think. And yeah, I think it kind of shows you that
using this is Golden Open as opposed to Fluids. It's thinner. It takes longer to dry, but I'm using it to lighten the value on the yellow a little bit. I'm telling the watchers, not so much you.
That's fine.
You've seen me paint before. You know what I'm doing.
Yeah, a little bit.
What I'm doing is lightening. I just basically erasing what's going on in here to a point. And I'm going to go over it again later. And I think, so I got to be really careful because this is paper, not canvas. So I think after it dries, I'm going to do a glaze of that green gold. I really like that green gold for the color, but I think if I glaze over this with it, we'll bring it back to closer to where I was and have that yellowish tint as well. Sorry, not to interrupt you. I was just wanting to let everybody know what's going on.
I know what we're here for. No, I would say that shows the fact that you can change your writing style, because it's going to be read. I think again shows that it is different, but that doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It just means they're different.
Well, that's the subjective part, right? Where you decide, or he decides, or whoever decides that one is better than the other. It's subjective to who's deciding.
Right. And
I think that's the core of why he would say it's the same, because it's subjective and you decide whatever you want.
Right. So, yeah, I would just say, personally, for me, like, I'm not going to tell Larry Rubino what to say. I have not earned that kind of right in any way, shape, or form. I know it. But I would say for myself,
punch you down, and his rapid fans would too.
Yeah, no. But for me personally, I just know that my philosophy on that would be, different, equally valid. So that's how I would say it. They're equally valid, and you're going to get a story either way. And whether it's better or worse it's 100% subjective. That's how it's the same. It's
right.
It's subjective.
It's subjective.
But, the experience, the value, the whatever is subjective of that. But it was interesting to see some of this stuff and his comments. I also made sure to link Martin Shoemaker or tag him in my comment, because I figured if I was using his book as justification for my opinion on it, it's a nice way of, I don't know, kind of promoting somebody into the discussion.
Right to quote your sources? Cite your sources?
Pardon me?
Only right to cite your sources?
Something like that.
That way you can argue with Martin.
Yeah. That's a good one. I know that Martin was arguing with him per se. It was just, I thought it was applicable.
No, I'm being facetious. Larry probably knows Martin already, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if he did.
It was kind of funny this week. The students got their iPads, and there was one day I wanted to give a quiz, but we'd kind of eaten through a big chunk of our time. And I could have given the quiz, but it would have kind of been pushing it a little bit, and I see no reason to rush. So I'd rather my students get a good grade than a rushed grade. And so I postponed it. So we ended up with like 5 minutes left or something. And they're kind of talking and whatnot. And this girl starts, oh! And then she's showing her iPad to people. I'm like, what's going on? Because, they're 7th graders and they're fascinated by something online. And, it looks highly sus. So what's going on? And she showed me, she goes, is this you? And it was the cover of the Gears, Gadgets, and Steam book that you did. Like, yeah, that's me. That's my name. The book's over on my desk right now. You want to look at it? And she's like, oh, you were on the cover. And I'm like, well, it's really easy to get on the cover when you know the artist designing it. So, little professional tip there.
And the artist designing it in the book too.
Yeah.
I think the third name on the cover really is not happy with being the third name on the cover.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That person seems a little condescending for just being one of our, table of content mates, right? I think
I'm just happy to.
I think he was used to special treatment because there was a Facebook group for amateur writers that I met him through. Remember when I was telling you, like I was writing the ice form, and I was talking about the Skraelig Pass, and the person that was telling me that Skraelig meant pussy, which it doesn't. And he was like, he was thinking that was a valid critique, and I told him it wasn't a valid critique, for which I got kicked out of that room. But it's not a valid critique to tell me that you don't like the name of a race or the name of a past. You know what I mean? Because of misreading, because you didn't actually bother to read the name. He was talking about the word Skraeling, which doesn't mean pussy. It means either small, like, because they're talking, it was the Vikings word for Indians when they were talking about the Micmac Indians. It was either means small or loud. Nobody knows for sure what it means. There's so many points of reference, and there is no definitive reference. Nobody, not even the Norwegian, know exactly what it means, right? So he knew what it meant, and he didn't like it because of that. And I just said, you know, it's not a valid critique to say I don't like the name of something. That's not valid. And he got all insulted and ran to the mods and all this other shit. Well, ironically, the mods had been publishing an anthology that they had taken one of my stories for the anthology, and it was supposed to be basically for exposure, right?
Yeah.
So it was for exposure, and then they want to take my story, use it without paying me, and then kick me out.
Nice.
Like, you can go fuck yourself. Like, I didn't sign any contracts saying that you could use my shit without, you know, compensating me. And if you're going to kick me out because one member whines, but that is the member. That's the guy that started all that bullshit. And it was over him reading a word that he thought, actually, he thought he knew the definition, and the definition he knew was wrong. But more so, it wasn't the word that he thought it was. There was letters missing from the word he thought it was.
Well, I know
So,
that
like,
Divergent Realms book that bought my last story.
Yeah, I know some people that are in there too.
There was a request that I change one of the words, because I'd used the word chuffed, and like in Britain that's slang for ass, and I was like, oh, all right, whatever, I guess I'll change it. It's not exactly, so it's kind of a critique, but not much of one. Well, I mean,
that's different because they're buying your story, right?
Yeah, they're paying for it. I'm like, all right, cool.
It's not just somebody giving a critique that thinks they know everything about everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, if someone told me that, I would be like, does anyone else think that? I mean, you know, because sometimes it's like,
I didn't get a chance
to. Right.
It was all, you know, oh, change it because, you know, I don't like this. I don't like that name. It means this. Well, it doesn't mean that because it's not the word you think it is. Take the time to actually read it. Critical reading guy. You know what I mean? How many times have you wanted to say that? Your reading comprehension is not where it should be for a writer, right? I'm not mentioning any names, but you did mention the name of the anthology, so like somebody might get back to him. I don't really much care. He's actually still on my friends list on Facebook because I'm just too lazy to go through that shit. But he really got upset that he had third billing because he thought that he should have first billing because he had been published more or some bullshit.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah.
But publish more in magazines that don't pay. What does that tell you?
Yeah. I'll say because you and I have some credits.
Oh yeah, I've got way more publications for money than he does. For instance, I could join the Science Fiction Writers of America if I wanted to, because I can show that I've earned what they asked me to earn within the time period that they asked me to earn. I don't think he can because he's not a member. It sounds petty. I'm not trying to be petty, you know what I mean? But it's just, it's like, really? I mean, he was being petty. He was very petty. Because it's like, you want to pick apart one name instead of telling me if there's a problem with the story. And it's a first draft anyway. You should be picking out problems with the story if there's a plot hole, if there's, inconsistencies that I need to look at. Not, I don't like this name.
Well, yeah.
I just felt like I'm a spoiled brat. I can do what I want. No one to say, okay,
I have found.
That's from Little House on the
I've
Prairie.
seen people throw fits about critiques before. Valid critiques.
Right?
And I've seen people give crappy critiques. And my thing is like let's say someone gives a critique and there's something that's just factually wrong about the critique, right? On one hand, I can ignore it because I know it's factually wrong. Like if they say you never mention this character's name until 30 pages in, but you can point to different parts where you've said the character's name before then, so okay, you can ignore the critique,
but still that's an attempt at helpful critique, right? Even if they're wrong, they're attempting to be helpful.
But it's also one of those things where it's like, okay, you missed this guy's name. Why did you miss this guy's name? And if several people are coming up with it, even though it's factually there, it still means I need to emphasize this better. I need to bring him out. I need to make it more noticeable. Something. Like, it's one of those things where you don't have to agree with every critique, and you're going to get crappy ones sometimes, even from good critiquers.
Right.
But it always, I think, it presents a chance for you to go, well, maybe I should look at this just in case, and then if I don't see it or don't care enough, ignore it.
I try to treat every critique as valid because they took their time to look at my story, right? But when the only comment is, I don't like that name, not liking that name is not valid. That's like that whole editor thing that we talked about, where the editor could have a girlfriend or just recently ex-girlfriend with the same name as your main character and deny your story because they've got the same name, right? He just doesn't like the name right now because he just broke up with a Karen, so your Karen reminds him of his Karen and he doesn't want to buy it. Well,
but that's a crappy editor.
But that's what I'm saying. That's not a valid critique. It's that's one of those times I dare say you could do I dare say you could send that story back to that same editor a few months later without telling him anything, and he might give it a fair shake, right?
Well, I would hope that an editor who just broke up with a girlfriend would be conscious of the fact that might be biasing himself And it's an easy enough trick to go, oh, well,
Yeah.
it's Karen on the page. I'm going to pretend it's Sheila, and we'll just roll with that and see if it affects the story.
It doesn't, And I'm not pulling that out of my ass for an example. That's what David Froman was talking about. That happening quite a bit. So
I'm just saying those editors probably should.
Well, what he's saying is you could send that story later on, and that editor probably stopped reading when he read that name. Yeah, it's not fair, but editors are already overworked and underpaid, right? So if you add emotional distraught or any excuse onto it, then you could understand how that could be an invalid thing, but at the moment they were emotionally, not able to stand. But yeah, I mean, like it is wrong. I mean, it's not right, but we're human. And editors, like I said, overworked, underpaid. Now they've actually, you think about it, how many editors are there at Tor now compared to 20 years ago? So, I mean, it's more likely that they're not going to give up their job for one story because it's Karen and just say reject and deal with it later on if it comes back. And like I said, I mean, Karen's an example also, obviously, but like, it's quite likely that that is a possibility that could happen. Like, I think of it as exactly the same thing as I was just talking about with that guy. He didn't like that word. He didn't like that word probably because he was writing something in the Viking vein, because that's uncommon these days, right? And he probably used that term in a more derogatory term, or whatever, derogatory usage. And he didn't like it because it's already a derogatory comment in his story, or whatever. It doesn't make the critique valid, but it might explain why, he said what he said, and instead of, taking the time to read it and give it a valuable critique. When I try to, and my wife will tell you, because she's asked me many times, why do you do this to yourself? But I literally try to give every story a fair shake. And I've read stories that were miserable from the very first, almost the very first paragraph to the end. And it's probably one of those cases where, like, the emphasis on the first 13, they took the time to perfect that first 13, but nothing else in the story, right? So, like, you're reading a good 13, and you're like, I've read good 13s that hooked me enough to want to read the next part, and then the next part was written like a synopsis. Like, where's the characterization that you had in the first 13? The first 13 is the first 13 lines. The first 13 lines is a tradition that goes back to magazines and not e-zines, where you send the manuscript in, and the first page of that manuscript has 13 lines. So you've got those 13 lines, that first page, to convince the editor, to hook the editor enough to change the page. There should be a hook on every page like that, but just explaining to the general public what I mean when I say first 13. We've kind of been conditioned to think about the first 13. I guess, well, I don't know. you may not consciously go, I'm gonna put this in the first 13 or whatever, but you notice when it's lacking from 13, and it doesn't have to be like, so it doesn't have to be all the information that you can get, which is one of the mistakes with the first 13 theory. Is like, you don't have to dump every single bit of information in that first 13 lines. What you have to do is establish what time period it is, who the character is, and the promise of some kind of conflict. If you're writing and I can't tell whether or not your character is inside or outside, yeah, that's a problem that you should probably address. But that's a problem that you should probably address because it should be a part of your thinking in every scene. And David Farland, David Farland gave a good example of trying to involve every scene, put in every scene a little bit of the milieu, a little bit of what's going on in the surroundings. If there's animals or trees or windy day or whatever, to want to keep that in the reader's mind at least once per page. And I think that's a good idea, although it can be overbearing at times. You can stop the natural flow for it, so I mean, you want to watch out for that. But as a general rule, I think it's a valid way of thinking, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, when we're talking about the first 13, I know. It's one of the judges for their Writers of the Future, Tim Powers, right? He's one of the judges.
I like
right?
Tim Powers.
Yeah. And I think he's shown like, you should probably have the main character's first name, or main character's name should probably be in the first line and all this stuff.
Yeah, he said, and he and Orson Scott Card have said either the character's name or I. So if it's first person, then you want to identify it as a first person story in the first line.
Right. And I know that chafes me for some reason. So 100% I think about that stuff because I know what people have suggested and things, I guess. I also know that I try to figure out ways of subverting it, kind of. Which may be stupid, I don't know. But when a story starts off with the character's name, and you keep starting every story off with the character's name, I get bored with it. And I try to figure out different ways of doing it, I guess. And I understand that's me. That's a focus on the writer, not the reader, because the reader hasn't necessarily seen it over and over again. But when I see it in prose, I'm just like, I don't know.
You're talking about identifying the point of view character.
Well, I understand that, and I get why they need to do it, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not arguing that it's wrong. I'm just saying
I don't think you need to do that in the first line. Like, I've heard argument that, so if I'm writing a multi point of view character story, then I think it is wise and valid to have like you open each section that changes a point of view with the guy's name or the girl's name to identify that that's a change of a point of view. I think that's valid.
Hey, Big Walrus, you should bring me a beverage.
But also, Paul Anderson, who wrote Call Me Joe, which is what was turned into Avatar.
Okay.
It is. If you read Call Me Joe and you read Avatar, it's the same.
Yep.
Like, it even has cat people on the cover. So, yeah, to keep from getting too deep into that subject, what was relevant about bringing that up is that Paul Anderson doesn't start with the main character often. He starts with a description. He starts with describing the night, the day, the land, the whatever. So he starts by putting you in a setting.
Right. Which has
and
been done.
often,
Go ahead.
well, what I was just going to say is that often his stories are milieu stories. They're about someone that doesn't fit in where they are, and they are trying to find a place to fit in. And if you think about it, Avatar is a milieu story because he goes from being disabled to having a different body.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's what I was going to say is that he starts with a description. Even like his Conan book, he started with a description. So, Kathleen, you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about Kennedy?
Mm-mm. Huh? No. Kathleen Dalton Woodbury.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, I do know who you're talking about.
She was mentioning that if you do it well, you can open with something like that too, because the point is hooking the editor to turn the page, right? So,
right.
And McFarlane, McFarlane. No, David Farland. David Farland, McFarlane. Yeah. Anyway, David Farland talked about using language to hook you too. So, like writing a horror story, you might use evocative language before you ever get to the horror part. What's my left?
Oh,
wow, there it is.
Hey, I'll be right back because I'm about to burst a kidney. I'll be back in just a minute. Oh God. I don't know if you ever watched Friends. If you ever saw the episode with Joey and Jeff Goldblum, you know how I feel.
Nope.
There's one episode with Jeff Goldblum where the character of Joey is trying to get a part in some play, I think. he has to audition with Jeff Goldblum, and he shows up late, and he has to pee something fierce, and they won't let him go until after his audition. So he runs through it super fast because he's trying just to pee, or he's trying not to pee, I guess. And he gets a call back. They really liked his performance, and so he's going for it. He drinks a whole bunch of stuff before the callback audition, and at one point in time, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're great, you got the part." And Jeff Goldblum goes to give him a hug, and that's when Joey realized he had drank too much, and, and he lost the part. And that's about how I feel. Golly. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I took care of that business before, soon.
So do I, but I drink a lot more than you do, I think. Because I've already gone through.
My hands are busy.
Yeah, mine aren't. I'm like, all right, just putting away can after can.
Because my hands busy.
So, yeah, I was just, ooh. Yeah, so, when you talk about the first 13, there are plenty of examples of ways of doing it. Like, there are lots of different ways of doing it. And sometimes I just start off with the character's name, and but I try not to, but not enough that I've done it, and if that's just the way to get into the story, that's the way I want to get into it. I'll look at it. I'll see if I can change it later on, but it's one of those things where it's like I don't think a normal reader is going to necessarily notice this, so it's really just between me and an editor, I guess. And
sometimes I don't like. Sometimes I want to start off with a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not the main character that's speaking first. And I've actually made myself go back and change that because it's such a big deal to everybody that you have to have the first person that's mentioned be, or the first person talking be the point of view. Because if not, everybody will accidentally follow that person's point of view. Which I think is kind of bullshit, but I can see how it's valid in one way, and in another way, I'm like, no, it's bullshit. It's the same thing, I guess. It's just instead of starting with a description or something going on, like my something going on is a conversation as opposed to the main character watching a thief climb up the wall or something,
I love when I get confused by my own shortcuts.
You love when you're amused by your own what?
Stupidity. I'm working on the script, right? And normally what I'll do is I'll just copy an entire panel, and then because it's in the right format, and then I'll just paste that. And then I got up and walked away, and so I started writing on a copy of the instead of the actual part. I confused myself. That's all. It's a skill and a talent. You gotta practice it, and one day you too can be completely clueless, just like me. Oh. How much does it matter if I want to dictate like panel size? Like,
depends.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put my suggestion in. Please remember, these are always suggestions. If you have a better way of doing it, I'm perfectly okay. It's just that part of it, I'm thinking about, you know, what's going to go on the page, at each page, how it all relates, and panel sizes, and you know, all the things that we had worked on before. So when I'm saying that, I think like one of these panels should be a half page.
Okay. So
it's one of those things where it's like, I think that would work, but if it doesn't, feel free to alter. Like, you know that.
Yes, I will. Half page is probably, unless you got fucking 30 people in the panel.
Nope. I should have one in this panel.
Then,
maybe two.
It just depends on what's in the panel. I mean, really. There are definitely reasons for bigger panels. So, when I read whatever you're writing and see if, you know, if there's a particular reason for it, other than you think it would be cool to show some character or whatever.
Right.
I mean, that's justifiable sometimes too, don't get me wrong, but
well, that's another thing. I'm trying to think of what might be interesting for you to draw. Like, trying to think about what will satisfy your artistic.
Yeah. I don't even know what I'm gonna be satisfied with drawing sometimes.
I get
and
it.
that changes in the process. Like, you know, you've seen me do that. Well, I've started off with roughs or layouts, and they're one thing, and then I felt like they would be better off as something else. So, but for the most part, what I'm trying to think of when I'm drawing comic panels is storytelling. What's gonna hit with the most impact? What is gonna be the most dynamic panel that I can make with what's going on? Which, you know, there's only so much you can do with introducing a city and a party at the same time. So I chose to go about trying to introduce some characters that you could recognize in the next part. But honestly, there could have been several ways to go about that. Feel free to make suggestions. I definitely will take them into account, but if you know what I'm doing. Like I'll look at something, and if I think I can condense some panels and have a bigger impact with it, which is what I did on the last one, is I condensed the panels because I thought it would be a bigger impact to condense them. And I think that was a success, but I don't want to make you think that every time you write a panel, I'm gonna go, no, I'm gonna do it this way.
Well, I always go back to one of my college courses when I was working. I was writing scripts for the theater department, and one day it was like a two-part class, sort of like you had the writers in one class and the actors and theater people in another. And so at one point in time, the professor switched classes, and the theater guy was like, every actor is going to want to add something. So if you try to lock them down, the more you try to do that, the more they're going to still add something. So you kind of have to expect them to add something to the whatever's going on. A motivation that makes them do something, a particular physical quirk, something. They're going to have something that they add. And so when I think about that, I also think about, okay, so if I'm not the one drawing it, which if I even have the ability anymore to draw it well enough, it would take way too long. So
don't worry about it. I feel that way too.
Well, so I'm just saying that I suspect that I give you the ideas and try to guide you where I'd like to see it, but in the end, I also know that you've got to have room to play. So that's kind of how I view it. I get some perks as the writer because I get to help direct the action and stuff, but I also have to step back and remember I'm the writer, not the artist. The artist gets to also have his perks.
And that's what I like about Kirk Dixon's claim that he only really claims one panel a page. He writes whatever is in the panel, but he only states a claim for what he wants for maybe camera angle or how much stuff is raw with one panel per page.
Yeah.
And I like that theory because that's the important panel, right? That's the one that you, as a writer, find important. I might find a different one as important and I might add to it, but if I know what your main point is to the page, just like the reason that there's bold print on the page, right?
Right.
I can do that bold print on the page effect with the art if I know what's the important panel and why. So, I think it's valid that that's what I was telling you from the beginning, right? That I want you to feel like this is your work as well as mine. It's not just my comic. And you keep deferring like, oh, it's your comic, and that makes it easy to say, no, like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. When really, as an artist, I shouldn't be doing that all the time. We're co-creators, and we've got to. I think we do have a deal of respect for each other already coming into it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would never work. But if you really feel something is important, again, what is happening is I'm running low on the brown and trying to preserve it. I'm not afraid to finger smudge, but some things, they're not big enough to be manipulated that way.
Right.
And since this is acrylic and not watercolor, can't just wipe it off and start again. Much as I may want to. So yeah, I mean, it's a collaboration. That's the whole point of a comic book, right?
Right.
Not a one person thing. Like, I mean, it could be. That's the whole Will Eisner thing. But Will Eisner pretty much sunk his whole life into doing that comic book or those comic books. I am not sinking my whole life into doing this comic book. I'm like, if it sells very well, then maybe we'll do more.
Right. But if nothing else, I mean, getting a product out, knowing how to do it, learning about it, I think that's a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, that is, first of all, I don't know about you, but I've wanted a long time to do a comic book. And just as long, I've actually wanted it to be my own stuff too. Like, I wanted to tell my own story. So I think of comic books, and I know people are going to argue that it's erroneous to think of it this way, but I think of comic books as kind of movies. They're just still movies. And because I do, I want to tell a story that feels like, a good movie. I've wanted to tell a good movie since I was a kid. I used to watch movies all the time. I watched movies so much as a kid and saw like 2 new movies every week that that it's almost natural for me to think of it as a movie. And to wonder like what we can achieve, because it basically is. If you look at Sin City, I know I bring it up quite a bit, but it's just such a great example that the comic and the movie basically took the comic book pages and used them as storyboards. Well, that's what Frank Miller was doing. He was using a comic book to tell the story. So Robert Rodriguez could just take it and make it live action from there, right? So that's what we're doing, kind of. That's what my thinking is. Unless, I mean, you might be thinking of it differently. That is the way that I'm thinking.
Well, that's not the way I'm thinking about it.
What's that?
I would agree with you. I'd say we're pretty much on the same page on that. I'm just
it's definitely not like a regular book. Like, I'm not trying to. I don't think we're writing a book. Like, even an illustrated book, I don't think this is the equivalent of it. I know they call it book, but it's not really a book. It's way more visual than a regular book is. It's not quite as visual as a movie is because we've got our limitations. We can't use moving pictures.
Right. But
it's the next best thing, and if we can get away with some really good artwork, all the people that we've got commenting here commented on YouTube. We need 3 commenters other than cheap viewers on Twitch regularly so that we can start having memberships.
Now wait, so is that three members that are like the same that consistently comment, or just 3
Yeah,
members that comment.
Consistent would imply.
I didn't know if it was like we consistently have 3 members, as in it could be Larry, Curly, and Mo one night. And, you know,
I think if we had 3 people that showed up every stream and talked, or we had at least 3 people talking and they were different, I think that's included. That means consistently having at least 3 viewers. Whether they're the same viewers or unique viewers, I don't think that matters. Nothing I read said it had to be unique viewers. I asked somebody because Tantrum asked last time if I had subscriptions shut off on Twitch, and you can't shut them off until they're on, but you can shut off gift subscriptions.
Okay.
Apparently, whatever he goes through for, I don't know, some financial plan, gives him the choice of, like, gives him a free subscription every month too. So I don't know if it's Disney Plus or whatever they was talking about, but whatever he goes through gives him a free subscription on Twitch every month that he can gift or he can use. So I'm interested, but yeah, if we get subscriptions and we start seeing something from it, but I think the subscriptions are like $4.99 or something like that. So I can't imagine we'd be seeing a whole bunch from 3 people or whatever. But you know, like the 60 people that follow us could subscribe. Some of them could subscribe. I don't know. That wouldn't hurt my feelings to have subscribers, so that we could actually do more. Pay for maybe another step up in StreamYard to have another camera, or thanks, Eve.
Hey, Aaron, good job.
One more. It probably has to be more than one episode, but one more. So I think pretty much we're talking about ending at 11, so I don't know how much more I can do.
Wait, hold on. Just chill a second. I'm doing something. That might help.
You talking to me or talking to somebody else?
Talking to you.
Well, no, I wasn't going to close out. I was just going to say that I don't know how much more I can do painting wise, because all the other stuff it's going to require mixing of color. And these ones are almost dry on the plate. I do have another plate, but it's all smaller stuff now. The bigger areas are covered.
What the?
Next is some blues and some blues and some reds.
I was trying. Oh my goodness! Sometimes all these different things to authenticate, and I get why, but it just seems like they're more of a hassle for real people than for bots to get around. But hey, whatever.
Right?
All right, let's see if I can do this. I wanted to make. I'm just going.
Talk script is a good time to talk script, because I'm pretty much done with this.
Oh, there we go. See, look at that. It was magical.
Well, I'll leave people that to look at, because, probably prettier than me.
All right. So let's try. Oh, I got to bring my thing up first. When I left earlier, it closed out my presentation panel. That's it. Anyway,
hopefully they'll validate that.
I'm hoping. That's kind of my goal. It's not showing me.
I assumed it might have been.
What the? Okay. That was messed up. Share screen. Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. Okay. I get it. Now I know what I did wrong. Oh God, no. I think that's the one. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. That worked. Now we can just believe. Anyway, so
You can put
earlier we were talking. What?
Oh, that didn't work. Said you can put us both on the side, but it didn't work. So remove. There we go.
There.
The opposite. That's the opposite way I was trying to do, but it worked.
Okay. So, there was a character that I want, which is what the half page is for. And I'm not really just enamored with this name, but right now that's just what I'm calling it. Waste Manager. Part of the city.
Waste Manager is the name? Let's see. Yeah, it is, huh? The garbage.
Well, you can be whatever we want. I'm not. This is not what I would worry too much about. But I did kind of want to give him a weird look.
Compactor.
What?
I said the trash compactor.
Yeah, well,
Garbage can
I
man. Trash can man.
Trash Can Man's out of the stand.
Yes, I know. That's why I was being facetious and calling him garbage can man. I know.
There's a book by China Mayville
Oscar.
called One Done, and he has these things called binjas, which are ninja trash cans. So,
What?
yeah, in this book, Undone, there are these creatures called binjas with a B, and it's for they're like ninja garbage cans.
What is the book?
Unlundun. UNLUNDUN. Unlundun.
Okay. All right. Well, no, I mean, I just want to make sure I was hearing you right.
No, that's fine. It's a play on London, so it's a. I think technically you could probably say it's a portal story because they go from one world to another. And girl has a milk crate as a pet, like a milk carton, like from school. It's a weird book, but anyway. Thinking about the Waste Manager, I was thinking about those binges. So.
I was reading that.
Sorry. Here, let me just move everything.
No, just hold on a second. Let me finish reading.
Okay.
I was trying to listen to you, and then I started reading it, and I'm like, well, maybe I should just read this.
Let me know when you're done.
I'm done with the description, which is what I was really trying to read.
Yeah. But I mean, that's about 3 pages away now. This is page 8. Page 9, I think. Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know. I may have to rearrange it, but it at least gives you an idea of where we're going. But, and I messed a little bit with 7. And I think I've shared this with you, so I'm not going to highlight the sharing button on screen. But I think these changes were already happened. Otherwise, I'll make another copy and I'll change the title so it also has. I could change the title now. What is today? The 17th.
Yep. About an hour and a half.
Huh?
For about an hour and a half.
Oh. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. I was confused. But yeah, I want to see. I want to see Mastiff get into something. So it's either going to be on page 9 or it might be on page 10 and 11. I might plan a spread for 10 or 11. I kind of like a few splash pages. Like I like them. I think it gives you more room. And, I mean, you don't want me to put so many in, I won't. But
no, I'd rather have more splash pages than more panels of 30 people.
So the waste manager in this story, spoilers for anyone who doesn't want to know, but so yeah, he has failed at his job at some point in time, or he's being bribed, so he's in on it, and I kind of fall on the latter side. He's been bribed to let people kind of come in, and he's going to send off Mastiff to go check, like, the gate. You know, Mastiff's not going to believe him. He's going to go check out the gate. When he's at the gate, he's going to be attacked by something. So, I don't know if you want this to be like a sewer monster, if you want it to be people, a person. How, you know, I don't know what you want to draw, and I can probably make any of that work. So I personally was thinking the sewer monster.
Why is he being attacked by?
Because he's snooping around where they don't want him to.
Okay. What ultimately is he going to find, or what is he looking for down there? Is he following
evidence that he's looking for evidence that that's where they're coming in? Like, he thinks he's down there to check, because on page 7,
what is he looking for that's coming in?
Well, so on page 7, yes.
Okay. Well, that's because, like, I'm just wondering if we should do something excommunicated related, or maybe outside the law related type of thing, sneaking in,
right?
Or a guard dog for. Who would want a guard dog for trash like that? Junkyard dog, maybe.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It could be like some kind of beast that could accidentally be sicked on them, like it's a train, like a guard dog type thing. Only it's not a guard dog; it's something else. But there to stop anything from getting in, and so it'll be an accident that Mastiff is seen as an intruder and attacked. But, we're going to have some deniability, so you can't quite tell that's what's happening. Does that make sense? Like kind of a trap type thing. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, I guess. Because, I don't know if I like Waste Manager.
Oh, well, I don't care about that as long as
no. I was looking up things that are related to it, so that I could see if I could find some, I don't know, some inspiration or idea or whatever. Because the only thing that popped up when you called him the Waste Manager is his name is Garden. That's probably not safe,
I know in my head, you can just see where I draw inspirations from. It's just the way it is, I guess. But I was thinking about the scene in the Clone Wars, the movie, the second, episode 2 in Star Wars, where you see the head of the Techno Union and the banking clan, and I was kind of thinking a mix of those two with a twist of Butler-like mechanic for some odd reason. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. But again, whatever. And that Waste Manager doesn't have to be his name. It can be whatever we want it. I need something so I know what to call him in the script.
Right. No.
We decide later on, it's like
I just
the engineer.
My mind started winding, and I'm like, and I'm just looking around at some ideas.
Yeah.
Because, in Star Wars, the garbage monster is called a Dianoga. But I wasn't looking to find out what the name of the creature that was swimming in the trash compactor was. I was looking to see what the name of the person responsible for the trash compactor was. If they had a different name, that might have been something a little bit cooler. I was looking up also waste management facilities, and one thing I hadn't thought about was incinerator. Because there's different functions, so what you're talking about basically another guild kind of guy.
Well, yeah, I mean he's
administrator, right?
Yeah, he's a bureaucrat. And in case you can't feel the disdain I have for bureaucrats.
My actual issue with him being a bureaucrat is, why is a bureaucrat going to be down where the trash is compacted?
Well,
why wouldn't he send henchmen, or, you know what I mean?
Well, because it's kind of his domain.
I get that you're saying that you've got this monster that's guarding it, but why would he be in that particular part?
Well, so the monster's going to be a little bit further away from him, or the gate will be further along. That's why he's at a terminal, and it's one of those things where, he's got.
So is he a bureaucrat or a foreman?
Yes.
Well,
I don't think he's going to have a lot of help. It's one of those things where he's got a title, so he thinks he's a bureaucrat.
Though, as someone with a briefcase that has a, command position, not just a foreman or not just, your head of the trash collector guy.
I'm saying that since this is, a struggling society, so there aren't a whole bunch of workers, and this is a position that while it's a crappy position, he's in charge of things and he has to take care of things, and for me, I think he thinks of himself more of a bureaucrat when he's really more of a maintenance guy, but he's a maintenance guy that's been given a title, so he just, that's why he's an elitist. The title matters, and trying to make him seem more to himself, he's more important than what he really is.
Okay,
kind of like
what you told me he was a bureaucrat. So bureaucrat for me has different connotations, and as an artist individual guy, that's why I'm asking you these questions, because when you say bureaucrat, I'm picturing a guy in a suit and a briefcase that doesn't get shit on his shoes.
Right, but he also says I see someone who looks like a bigwig, but he deals with toxic fumes and pipes. I mean, there's the section. I'm going to highlight it, or try to. Come on, there we go. Start. I hate my mouse. Oh my god. I'll just do it manually. Come on. What? Oh, my computer's being incredibly sluggish. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, the part that I highlighted, someone who wants to look like a bigwig, but he deals with toxic fumes and pipes, which is why he's got this get-up on. But, it's kind of those things where, can you really polish a turd? But he thinks he's important. So, that's why I'm saying he thinks of himself as a bureaucrat, even though really he's probably more of a maintenance man.
All right, well, I'm just saying, bureaucrat has a different connotation for me.
I get it.
And what I'm thinking is, so you're talking about infrastructure. This isn't just like the trash guy, it's the trash guy for this whole enclosed city state.
More the wastewater management, but yeah.
But I mean, does it go through? Are there several stations, and this is just one station, or is this the guy in charge of all the stations? You see what I mean?
Yeah. This would be something that would be.
You don't have to have the answer right now either. I'm just trying to think of ways to go about illustrating it.
All right.
I'm not gonna hop on drawing this tomorrow or tonight or whatever.
Well, it's 3 pages away still. I mean, we got time. I just wanted to make more progress.
I'm just the questions that I'm asking you, I guess, are food for thought, Jeff.
All right.
You may just have that one plant, like it's a Master Blaster or whatever.
Yep. That's kind of how I'm thinking of it.
Okay, but I didn't know that. So even if he's wearing a gas mask, if you're in an internal system of fucking sewage all the time or whatever, then maybe I would wear a gas mask too, or some kind of rebreather or whatever. But so so we've established that he's not really a bureaucrat. He's just in charge of his department or that.
Right, and that's kind of his dickhead attitude, I guess.
Yeah, he's more like Homer Simpson with a gas.
He's not that dumb.
Yeah.
He's more like oh, I forget what her name is in Monsters Inc., where it's like, Mike Wazowski, whoever that woman is, you know, she thinks she has a little bit of power and she lords it over people. It's kind of how he is. Mastiff is stepping into this man's domain.
There's people for him to lord it over is what the ultimate.
Well, it'll be rare for that too, but yeah.
And that's what I asked in the first place: is that why would he be down there? Remember, instead of henchmen.
Right.
I'm not meaning henchmen as like he's a major crime boss or whatever. I mean his workers or people that work for him. But if he's trying to cover something up, and I imagine that he's hooked into the main bad guy.
Yeah, it's got to be something. And it's one of those things where, like, I'm thinking, there are some Roger Moore, James Bond movies particularly that I'm thinking about where they try to kill James Bond, and he deals with whatever the issue is, and he knows who's responsible, but he can't just go out and kill him. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know you did that, but I can't prove it, so you get with it for right now, but I'm coming for you later. It's one of those type of things. And just to kind of show how shady some of this is going to get. But, and to show that there's more to just there's more to this than just a serial killer type thing. Trying to get that established fast enough so that we know that, yeah, there's a...
So between us, we've established that a long time ago.
Right, but I don't think we've established on the
an actual serial killer. He's doing what he's doing for a reason. Right,
but I haven't...
That's why I haven't discussed a lot of the actual story or plot or whatever, because some of it, you want to have some of it be new if somebody buys the magazine and wants to read it, right?
Right. So, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I told you my theory about it. Everyone knew that the Titanic was going to sink, so they still went and saw the movie. But, yeah, there should be something.
Yeah, but they didn't know that Jack was going to fuck this chick and that chick was going to throw a thing overboard. They didn't know all that shit. They knew the Titanic was going to sink, but the story actually revolves around Rose.
Yeah. Anyway. Hey, my wife just laid down and it's close to 11, so I'm going to call it a night because I think she has a headache.
We'll call it a night because I'm there too pretty much. Like I said, tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm going to end this early and do a little bit of writing so I don't have to fill my morning with writing to catch up for tomorrow's meeting.
Awesome.
So, all right. Yep. Thank you, everyone that spoke in the chat. Everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for those who liked, subscribed, followed. Yeah, you can subscribe on Twitch yet, but maybe that'll be soon.
All right.
Good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace out, guys.